Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. This is the Into the Weekend with BetDSI show for college football week 6. It's Friday afternoon. Brent is super busy. All the hurricane, the weather stuff has really messed up his schedule, but he's still taking valuable time out of his schedule to do this call with us. Brent, thanks so much for doing this call with us. So the hurricane messed things up, right?
Yeah, the hurricane kind of plays with things a little bit in terms of, games that we've taken totals off the board in some cases. Obviously, the games that are canceled or postponed, that's an issue right there. But, I mean, the thing, too, that looking ahead to, the future stuff we book in terms of regular season wins and such, well, teams don't make up the games. So, I mean, it creates more problems than you can think of. And then also the interpretation of the effect of the weather on the games, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'd much prefer that we didn't have any hurricanes this time of year.
Well, Brent is really busy, I know that, but I really appreciate that. He does the show with us every week. All right, Brent, the first game I have to ask you about that jumped out at me, Ohio State and Indiana, right? The line opened at 31, took an early week jump down, which surprised me. It went down to 29, and I think in some of our coverage during the week, I said, man, if this one goes to 28 or 27.5, that's got to be a sign that there's sharp action on Indiana, and it did, in fact, do that. It's now down to 28, 27.5. Got to be sharp action on Indiana there, right?
I've actually got good two-way action there. I mean, if you look at my actual wager count, you might be surprised that I've got just a few more bets on Indiana, but it's almost dead even. So, it's funny, if we did this show yesterday, the line was like 29, and now we're sitting at 27.5 with Ohio State right now. So I actually do have more money on Indiana. Guys that are very respectable, not people who have made, as we quote unquote, the list, but good guys nonetheless. I mean, guys who certainly know their value. They came in at 31, pretty much is where they came in on Indiana. Now, I mean, I've got decent money back on Ohio State since we went to 27.5. We've kind of played around with the juice back and forth to 27.5 and 28, so we bounced back and forth between those two. When I look at parlays and teasers and all that kind of stuff, I definitely gives that an indication that the public is more on Ohio State. I've got a count of almost like 3-1 in terms of the actual number of wagers I've taken on this game favoring Ohio State. But as I mentioned, my money's almost 2-1 in favor of Indiana. So, deeper pockets on Indiana for sure. Lots of line movement on this one.
Interesting. All right. So officially, no sharp action though on this game at all, as far as list guys are concerned.
No, I mean, if you forced me to bet,
right,
and of course
right.
we wouldn't do that to anyone. I would definitely be with the dog.
Interesting. And also not overwhelming public action on Ohio State, which I would have guessed.
Yeah, it could be just the number being what it is.
Right.
But I mean, they generally don't really, back away from laying the big prices either, especially when they're at home. So yeah, it is a bit of a surprise maybe.
All right, so maybe that tells me that Ohio State at 27.5 might be a good bet. Then the next thing I want to ask about is Washington at Oregon. Oregon, of course, in an unusual spot of being a big home underdog to Washington. The line opened at about 8. Now it's up to about 9 market wide. So obviously some money came in on Washington. I'm guessing, I don't know what the public, I guess the public would be on Washington, right?
It's another case where if I'm looking at my straight bets, it's very one-sided in terms of Washington. I'm almost like 3-1 on straight bets. When I look at parlays and teasers, it gets to like 6-1. So yeah, it's kind of surprising that you've got such overwhelming support for Washington as a road favorite. They started coming in around 8. We're up to 9 minus 15 right now. In terms of money back in on Oregon, I haven't really got anything really sharp, or the closest thing to sharp action I would say on this game came Oregon plus 9, but I mean obviously not enough to move the number back right now. Looking at the actual dollar volume I've taken on this game, it's almost dead even, so it's a decent spot for us in terms of my wager count being about 3-1 in favor of Washington in terms of straight bets, and my money almost even, and the sharper of I definitely is on Oregon at the plus money, plus 9.
Right, but again, no official list sharp action on Oregon.
No, but I'm sure we'll find some of that.
Right. Oh, you are. So you expect that some of that will come in on game day?
I just have a feeling. Yeah, I
right.
mean, I got nothing to base it on other than my wager count suggesting that the line might creep up, and the suggestion that guys who are decent and respectable have already kind of taken nibbles at Oregon. So
right.
I mean, put it this way: if this line drops down, down below where it is right now,
right.
That sharp action moved it, and if it goes up to 10, that sharp action moved it that way too.
Right.
I've got a good indication right now in terms of the count on the dollar volume.
All right, and then maybe the most controversial spread of the entire week is Florida State Miami. I've heard some interesting opinions on both sides here, kind of strong opinions on both sides and educated opinions, and the line has been bouncing around, right? It opened at about -2 that I saw, then went up to about 3 market wide solidly, and now it appears that it's heading back down towards Florida State, some 2.5, some +3, -120, stuff like that. So it appears there's a pretty solid two-way action on Florida State Miami. What's the deal with this line?
Yeah, this is in terms of the two-way action. Yeah, I've got good two-way action in terms of the number of bets I've taken. When you look at the amount of money I've taken on this game, it's not balanced at all. It's almost like 3-1 in favor of Florida State, and the reason for that, Peter,
Sharp action on Florida State, unreal, awesome.
that
Mike Brenner,
is
yes,
like it's almost like we've done this before.
yeah. My partner Mike Brenner said he loved Florida State at +3 early in the week. We had some posters on the internet saying that we were really underestimating Miami there, that we were wrong, but the sharp side is Florida State. You're telling us.
Yeah, I've got the first hit came +3.5, which was sharp. Then again, another sharp came in +3. What are we talking? +3, and another one +3 -120. So I've got 3 different sharps involved in this game, all on the same side. So that's really quite telling. As I mentioned, my wager count in terms of the actual number of bets I've taken is almost dead even, but my money's 3-1 favoring Florida State. So it's a good game for us in terms of the heavy action involved here, and not so good in terms of the way it's one-sided now.
Right.
Could we stay down? Right now we're 2.5 -15. We're kind of gotten off to 3, which is is not a huge concern. And again, when the first hit came at +3.5, we jumped right down to 3. So yeah, other than one big bet at the +3.5, we haven't really exposed ourselves too much. So dropping down to 2.5, we won't have any problem doing that, or even going down to 2 if it allows us to balance action. And but it's a situation right here where we definitely know the sharps are on Florida State, and we got a good two-way action. So if we have to go lower, we certainly will, because you want to be on that side as well. And right now we're not.
All right, but something drove it up to 3, though. What drove the line up to 3?
Let me just take a look here in terms of the in-depth. Just the first couple hits, actually. I mean, there's a decent, respectable guy who hit it at -2 when we were up to 2.5. Just a couple more bets. Again, we're going to call guys who are okay, who you recognize.
Right.
And these are guys, more than anything else, they're guys who will put a max bet on the game. So
Right.
if a guy who's not a big square customer or a big loser long term or whatever puts a max bet on the line, well, you got to move it. So
Right.
we did.
All right, 3 interesting games there, and so far we've gotten one official sharp side. Definitely Florida State. The Sharps in college football have done very well overall so far. Last week they did well again. What can you tell us about notable sharp and or public action from the rest of college football week 6, Brent?
I just want to mention this Maryland Penn State game because it's been one of those games as well where we just got a ton of action lines been bouncing around. And again, it's not bad. I mean, the initial big hit did come on Maryland +1, but I mean that line flip flopped so much, and we already right now we're Maryland -2.5, but that line had gotten all the way up to Maryland +3 or Maryland -3. At that point, I got Penn State money +3 -115. So there's a lot of movement on this game, just ticking around between pick and 3, and the volume has been fantastic. My wager count's fantastic. So I mean, as long as nothing it doesn't land 3 or less either way, we're looking all right. But I just want to mention that one because there's a ton of action on that game.
Yeah.
Triple sharp action. We do have sharp action on Wake Forest. They're at home to Syracuse. Line right now was Wake Forest -3 -115. The Sharps took Wake Forest early -2. I've got decent action in terms of my wager count both ways, but my money is almost 2-1 in favor of Wake Forest. So 3 -115 is where we are right now, trying to get some Syracuse money back. Wake Forest -2. Those where the sharp stuff came in. Dropping down to Iowa at Minnesota, I want to mention that as well. Minnesota's a 1-point favorite right now. Just mentioning this one again because the two-way action I have on from sharps as well. 2 heavy sharps, guys who are on the list. First off, Iowa +1 and Minnesota +1 as well. So one away, not a big deal really. But in terms of my wager count, it's almost dead even. My money does favor Minnesota, almost like 2-1. But I've got a couple of big sharps involved in this game. I just want to mention because I got guys going both ways on this one. Dropping down to Illinois and Purdue. That line on Illinois at home to Purdue is all the way up to 10.5 right now. That came from 8.5, and it was sharp action that drove that up. Sharps took Illinois -8.5. And Notre Dame and North Carolina, that's another one with what we call a lot of movement. North Carolina State at home is a 3-point favorite. Now there's like 3-15 or 3-20. The initial sharp bet on North Carolina State though came at -1. So sharps are on North Carolina State. My wager count is almost 5-1 favoring Notre Dame, of course, and I have my money's almost dead even on that one. So that's a distinct sharp public split for sure with the sharps on North Carolina State. Again, they laid the -1, lines up to 3 right now, and the public is all over Notre Dame. I don't know. I think if they're hoping Notre Dame can find a defense or something like that. Let's go down to East Carolina at South Florida. Sharps are all over East Carolina. I got 2 different sharps on East Carolina, 18.5 and even 17 on East Carolina. Line's down to 16 right now. So South Florida is a 16-point home favorite. My money is way one side on East Carolina. Again, two different sharps, both on East Carolina. So that's rather strong. And dropping down to Air Force now. Air Force is a road favorite of 12 right now. They're at Wyoming. Air Force -11 is where the sharp action came in on that game, Peter. Was that a grunt there? You didn't like that one?
I gave Wyoming +10.5 on our Monday show earlier on in the week, so I guess that's a loser right there. I'll just write that in.
Well, you never know. Michigan line is all the way up to 30 -115. They're on the road at Rutgers. I've got sharp action on Michigan -28.
Wow.
And as you can expect, my wager count is way one side on Michigan as well. Almost 9-1 in favor of Michigan. So that's really an ugly situation for us when you've got the public, as they will, laying the big number on the road, and the sharps are with them in this case as well. Down to Southern Mississippi, they're at Texas San Antonio. Southern Miss is now a 17-point favorite. Sharp action came in on them -15.5. I've got almost no bets back on Texas San Antonio, nothing of note at all. So we're very one side on that game with the sharp action being what it is. Alabama and Arkansas, I just want to mention that one because we got a good two-way action. Alabama's a road favorite, -14 right now, 14 dog 15. But I've got good two-way action on that one. I want to mention just because it's been a real good game for us. And dropping down to Washington State at Stanford. Washington State got some love there. +7 -05 is where the sharps came in on Washington State. I have more money on Washington State, more bets on Stanford, almost 3-1. So definitely getting a sharp public split there in terms of the public backing Stanford. Sharps again on Washington State, +7 -05. And that's going to do it.
All right. Brent from BetDSI. Interesting stuff. Wow. One-way action on the Michigan game. So sharps and public. So if Michigan covers, that's going to be a significant loss. Probably the biggest loser of the day for you in college football, right?
Well, if the line drops, you'll know why it dropped. Put it that way.
There you go. Brent from BetDSI, thanks so much. As always, talk to you again next week for college football week 7.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.